Greetings. By virtue of your presence watching this video today, I want you to know that we consider you to be an extended member of our family at Unity in Linwood. We believe that you are an individualized expression of that one creative impetus which stands behind all life, and as such we celebrate the uniqueness which you are, and we celebrate our unity with you. We are glad you're with us.
Good morning, Unity in Linwood. Good morning, Unity in Linwood. Good morning, Unity in Linwood. You are so kind. Thank you. Good morning. Wow, I have people. Every service has an ambassador. If you have a question about who we are, about what we teach, what we believe, about what is available to you in your exploration of this evolving divine idea we call Unity in Linwood, you are welcome, encouraged, and invited to engage this noble soul in conversation. Her name is Nan Allen. Will you wave to these kind people, please, Nan? She is your 11 o'clock ambassador. Practical spirituality, welcoming community. It remains our admittedly short, and yet don't you find it broad mission statement. Practical spirituality, welcoming community. Every week I like to support this with one of the 6 bullet points we developed in conversation with your Board of Trustees beginning in late 2014, so take a deep breath. The one for this week reads as follows. We believe each person is an individualized expression of divinity itself, and we accept each person as such, without condition, without question, without exception. As a matter of principle, it can be said that we at Unity in Linwood love boldly. Fair enough? The words are Mr. Fillmore's. If they speak to you, please repeat after me. I am. I am now. I am now immersed in pure being. I am now in the presence of pure being. And immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. I acknowledge your presence and your power. O blessed Spirit, in your divine wisdom, now erase my mortal limitations, and from your pure substance of love, bring into manifestation my world, according to your perfect law. Last week I suggested that Jesus taught parabolically. In other words, beyond any factuality contained within his stories, his listeners would always be expected to ask, yeah, but how does this apply to me? Or it could be said that beyond the factuality of his stories, his listeners would always be expected to ask, yeah, but what's the point of this? Beyond the factuality of Samaritans and servants and seeds, sowers, sheep, his listeners would always be expected to ask, yeah, but what's in this for us? For you see, that's the purpose of parabolic teaching. It's inherently personal, for it's designed to invite the student to discover himself or herself in the story, and ultimately to challenge something of the way that the student perceives self or perceives society or beyond. It's inherently provocative and even frustrating, I suppose, by design. I once read that if his audience politely filed out the door or down the path, as it were, patting Jesus on the arm while saying, "Good sermon, Rabbi. See you next week," he would have considered it a total failure. Now, that's not entirely true with me, but I do get the point. I get the point. I'm betting that Jesus would have preferred challenges and questions and sideways glances of surprise at some of the countercultural teachings he presented, knowing that those challenges and questions and sideways glances would ultimately become catalysts for soul growth, development, and unfoldment. I might go so far as to suggest that good sermon, Rabbi, see you next week, would have been tantamount to saying, nothing provocative today, Rabbi, have a great week, or nothing frustrating today, Rabbi, see you next week. And that nothing provocative and nothing frustrating would have been tantamount to saying, no growth, development, and unfoldment going on here today, Rabbi, have a great week. And in the same fashion that Jesus taught parabolically, I suggest that those who followed him, those first century Jews and Jewish Christians, we might call some of them, would have taught about Jesus' life in the same fashion. Now, while Paul wrote some 30 years after the death of Jesus, and while Mark wrote some 40 years after the death of Jesus, neither referenced the nativity narrative whatsoever, for reasons we will never know. I do have some theories. But that's another sermon for another Sunday. Just gonna let you hang there until Christmas 2018. I like to imagine Matthew, who wrote some 50 years after the death of Jesus, and who did reference the nativity narrative, standing before you today. And I like to imagine Matthew offering his nativity narrative, followed by questions such as, now Matthew, at what hour exactly did this birth occur? Or now Matthew, how much exactly did this Jesus character weigh? Or now Matthew, about that star, do you suppose it was a comet or a supernova? Perhaps something of a Roman weather balloon? What do you make of all this? I like to imagine this scenario because I delight in the vision of this sandal-clad evangelist giving an entire room full of people something of the crazy eye. For as a parabolic teacher, he would expect you to ask, yeah, but how does this apply to me? He would expect you to ask, yeah, but what's the point of this? He would expect you to ask, yeah, but what's in this for us? Upon hearing the question, now Matthew, at what hour exactly did this birth occur? He would effectively answer in the tone of any modern parent, did you not hear a word I said? This is why Matthew's nativity narrative is different from Luke's nativity narrative, is different from John's nativity narrative, is different from Revelation's nativity narrative. No, I'm not letting that one go. Each was making a different point to a different audience. None of these evangelists were attempting to offer a factual account of the nativity narrative suitable post-Enlightenment minds, such as those gathered in this room this morning. Now, while December 25th wasn't established as the birth date of Jesus until sometime in the 300s, I have to tell you, I absolutely love the choice. I love the choice. For whether you read Matthew or Luke or John, each perceived and experienced unthinkable cruelty and oppression in his world. And I think each assigned the birth of Jesus as a symbol of hope for a higher way of being together, not in some distant afterlife, mind you. What a travesty of normative Christianity that paradigm is, by the way. But that's a different sermon for a different Sunday. But right here and right now, among the living, breathing brothers and sisters of planet Earth, a new way of being together, not as subjects of an imperially driven world marked by power, but as equals in a divinely inspired world marked by justice. So is it factual that Jesus was born on December 25th, for many, many reasons, it's highly unlikely. In fact, I don't believe the odds are anywhere close to 1 in 365. I really don't. I don't even think those are close. But is it true that Jesus, as a symbol of hope for nothing short of a new world order, if you will, amidst the experience of unthinkable cruelty and oppression? Is it true that Jesus, as a symbol of emerging light amidst a time of deepening darkness, was born on December 25th? And I would say, well, parabolically speaking, absolutely. Absolutely, that's true. And if you can agree, then I applaud you. You're starting to embrace the nativity narratives with what I might call the appropriate mindset. You're beginning to set aside that post-Enlightenment mindset which so enjoys all that can be weighed on a scale and charted on a graph, and you're beginning to call forth something of the pre-Enlightenment mindset which is capable of drawing transcendent truths from these beautiful tales. You're beginning to call forth something of a mindset which is capable of asking, yes, but what's in this for us? For indeed, the Christmas story is a human story. The nativity narrative is our narrative. So in this spirit, I've devoted the rest of the morning to Mary. In a world marked with greed and all that greed begets, selfishness, inequity, oppression, cruelty, our evangelists told a story of a pregnancy which symbolized nothing short of a new world order. And to the Virgin Mother, an angel whispered, "You have a gift. You have a gift within you that's of value to humankind. You have a gift within you that is of value to humankind because that gift is of God." And it's from this consciousness that the carol arose.
O come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel, that mourns in lonely exile here, until the Son of God appear. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel.
I'm guessing each of us can relate for what is an angel if not a revelation, a knowing, a calling, a prompting? What is an angel if not something of inspiration itself? Unity co-founder Mr. Fillmore spoke of angels as the projection of spiritual ideas. And I think it fits. So yes, I'm guessing that each of us can relate. For each of us can relate to that experience of inspiration. Each of us can relate to that inspiration to turn left when conventional wisdom would have us do otherwise. Each of us can relate to that inspiration to say no when conventional wisdom would have us do otherwise. How many people in this room can relate to the experience of picking up the telephone to call someone after decades, only to have them respond with some iteration of, I've been thinking of you, or I was going to call you, or you have no idea what this call means to me. And I'm guessing that each of us can relate not only to that inspiration to turn left to say no, to call someone when conventional wisdom would have you do otherwise, but also to the temptation to argue. Well, I've turned right here for years. Every day at 7:50, I turn right here. I turn right and then I change lanes to miss the bus, and then I stop by the Starbucks, the one on the right, not the one on the left. And then I speed up to beat the next light before I merge onto the freeway. I've turned right here for years. Why, that's just the way it is. Why, my parents turned right here. My parents' parents before them turned right here. You know, I'm genetically predisposed to turn right here. Turning left, ridiculous. Ridiculous. So if each of us can relate not only to that inspiration to turn left, to call someone, to say no, when conventional wisdom would have you do otherwise, but also to that temptation to argue, imagine how you might respond if that inspiration included pregnancy. Virgin pregnancy. Now, at least Mary was young. Most of all other divine pregnancies in the Judeo-Christian tradition occurred with women who were aged or barren or otherwise beyond childbearing years. Now, by all worldly accounts, Mary was ill-prepared and ill-equipped. An underage peasant girl, I mean, imagine the arguments she could have made. And I don't think we would have challenged them. And yet when the angel whispered, "You have a gift within you that's of value to humankind." And what I would offer as a pinnacle moment in these narratives, Mary responded by saying, "Let it be. Let it be." And I have to tell you, I love it that Mary was ill-prepared and ill-equipped. I love it that Mary was ill-prepared and ill-equipped, for while we tend to reject these as deficits to be overcome, I think this narrative extends them as necessities to be embraced. Stay with me. I would suggest that ill-prepared and ill-equipped are powerful positions for transformation. For it's only when we recognize that we are ill-prepared and ill-equipped that we become available to those resources which transcend our own. You see, humility and power are fond bedfellows. I would go so far as to argue that at every pinnacle moment, at every jump point of human evolution you'll find at least one soul who was wildly ill-prepared and completely ill-equipped, standing at the center, for change cannot rise from the conventional wisdom which birthed the problem. That's why people experience what they call beginner's luck. You see, there is no beginner's luck, but there is beginner's mind. There is a mind that understands its place within the greater mind we call God, and by virtue of that understanding is beautifully positioned as a vehicle for something of a greater good to be demonstrated in the world. In fact, people who have all the right answers worry me a great deal. People who are well prepared and well equipped, people who have just the right formula for how I should be as a minister, for how we should be as a community, worry me a great deal. And when I say they worry me a great deal, what I mean is I ignore them. I mean, I'd much rather hang with those who are open and available by virtue of their inspired questions than closed and rigid by virtue of their righteous answers. So I don't offer Mary's story so much as one of being well prepared and well equipped, but I offer it as one of being willing. In a world marked with greed and all that greed begets, selfishness, inequity, oppression, cruelty, our evangelists told a story of a pregnancy which symbolized nothing short of a new world order. I wish this portion of our narratives were harder to imagine than it is. And yet, to every consciousness which is beautifully positioned as a vehicle for something of a greater good, an angel whispers, you have a gift within you that's of value to humankind. You have a gift within you that's of value to humankind because your gift is of God. Or more directly, you are a vehicle for a new way of being together. Will you hear me? And the question of the morning is this: will we respond with Mary's courage? Will we respond with Mary's willingness? Will we, to paraphrase Emerson, issue a litany of arguments rooted in conventional wisdom, or will we embrace the inspiration that has come to us by virtue of our right of consciousness and respond as Mary did? Let it be. Let it be. And it's from this consciousness that our carol continues.
O come, desire of nations, by in one the hearts of all mankind. Bid thou our sad division cease, and be thyself our King of peace. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel.
And so it is that if the call of this morning's message finds you provoked, I say amen. Amen. May we celebrate growth, development, and unfoldment. And if the call of this morning's message leaves you provoked, I say amen. Amen. May we welcome growth, development, and unfoldment. And it is from this consciousness that our carol concludes.
O come now, Christmas fall upon the land, and wake within each woman, child, and man, that all may hear your noble soul decree, and all may answer yes, and let it be. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel, that all might in your love and justice dwell.
Oh, come now, Christmas, fall upon the land, and wake within each woman, child, and man, that all may hear your noble soul decree, and all may answer yes, and let it be. Rejoice. Rejoice, Emmanuel, that all might in your love and justice dwell. Amen.
Thanks again for joining us. Please visit unityinlinwood.org for a preview of all upcoming classes, services, and events, and for an opportunity to make a gift to our community should you so choose. Thank you.